Not real happy my son's wearing his okay boomer shirt, but he's 15, so what can I do? Good, how are you? Why are we going
I'm gonna get one like it anyway. I'd rather get it stay farm than I would.
Talk down.
furnishes them for
No, so
I'm writing down everything I gotta do and I take a picture of it once a week.
Well, thank you all for sharing this. I just think this for social media and sharing. I mean, thank you for your support.
there's a bench right outside that bench. There's a few of them here. There's a few on the inside.
No saving the seats, huh?
There was a pew on the front row.
How about the front row?
He's proud of running.
No. You have a seat. I've got to keep it on this camera. If you see something, otherwise, don't worry about it. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn around and fix this.
Thank you.
I'd like to call the order of the special call meeting of Pendleton County Fiscal Court for the January 3rd, 2020. On everybody's right to work prayer and please.
Heavenly Father, the Spirit will be here this evening. Thank you for each and every one that is standing tonight. Just ask you to do this throughout this meeting, that we would do everything within your will and your way. Just ask you to do it on your own patience. Be with those in our community, lost loved ones, those who raise the trigger or recovering from it, as you keep pressing your hand on it, and you see percentages saying, "I'll pray."
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this is a special call meeting. What is on the agenda is all that will be discussed and or approved. And that is the discussion and possible approval of resolution for Pendleton County becoming a second amendment section of the county. Brief, thing I want to read to you before we get started into the resolution. Just to kind of give you background, what, how this, most of this is transpired, at least in my end. When I was first made known to the 5 fields that's been registered for file to in this recession just coming up, I knew it was going to be something we had needed to watch. I had a conversation with both our representatives, Mark and Bill Schroeder, and he assured me that these bills would not even make it anywhere or even be considered. On December 17th, as most of you may know, that Harlan County and Marshall County both either passed an ordinance or a resolution. That same day, I started receiving phone calls and also from the commissioners, from the members of the court, for me to research, and I'm doing this for Pendleton County. So I reached out to both judges in both those counties to ask them if they would send me the copies of what they had passed. And once I received those, I submitted them to our county attorney for her approval, or for her review, and her opinion on it. One was done in an ordinance, and then, basically an ordinance of the fiscal court is just within the laws of the county, that the guys, that the county and the citizens abide by. A resolution is usually just administrative, taken by the fiscal court to agree on county businesses, transactions, express the court's policy, direct administrative or legal action, or to make a public statement from the fiscal court. After inquiring about this on the state level and through our attorney, the resolution was recommended that we pass if we did. At this point, we're right at Christmas. It wasn't possible for the court to meet as a whole throughout the Christmas holidays. And we did have a meeting on the 30th, but some of the court members weren't able to for prior commitments they had. So through this week of New Year's, I had numerous people that reached out to me urging to move forward with this resolution and present it to the court. And it's something that I felt was with session going in next week, or they're going into session next week, and I wanted to get this passed so we can land it to them prior to them going to session. I wanted to let them know where we stand, and that we stand united, and then we stand with the other counties that have passed similar resolutions. This is the reason the call the special court meeting is so that this could be done prior to them going into session. And along with that, this was the time that we could get all the magistrates and all the court members here. I'm going to ask the clerk to read through the ordinance this time, and this will be an ordinance, or a resolution, I'm sorry. Resolution number 2020-0103-1.
Resolution declaring Pendleton County, Kentucky a Second Amendment sanctuary. Whereas the Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of our nation, and whereas the Second Amendment to the Constitution states a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of our free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And whereas the United States Supreme Court has affirmed an individual's right to possess firearms unconnected with service in a militia for transitionally lawful purposes such as self-defense within the home. And whereas the United States Supreme Court has affirmed that the right of an individual to keep and bear arms as protected under the Second Amendment is incorporated by the due process clause of the 14th Amendment against the state. And whereas the United States Supreme Court in United States versus Miller, 1939, stated that firearms that are part of an ordinary military equipment with use that could contribute to the common defense are protected by the Second Amendment. And whereas the Pendleton County Fiscal Court is concerned about the passage of any bill containing language which could be interpreted as infringing the rights of the citizens of Pendleton County to keep and bear arms. And whereas the Pendleton County Fiscal Court wishes to express its deep commitment to the rights of all citizens of Pendleton County to keep and bear arms. And whereas the Pendleton County Fiscal Court wishes to express opposition to any laws that would unconstitutionally restrict the rights of the citizens of Pendleton County to keep and bear arms. And whereas the Pendleton County Fiscal Court wishes to express its intent to stand as a sanctuary county for Second Amendment rights and to oppose within the limits of the Constitution of the United States and the Commonwealth of Kentucky any efforts to unconstitutionally restrict such rights. Therefore, be it resolved, the people of Pendleton County, through their duly elected fiscal court, hereby designate Pendleton County a Second Amendment sanctuary in order to preserve for the people of, on, and in Pendleton County their rights guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States of America. Furthermore, that the Pendleton County Fiscal Court hereby expresses its intent to uphold the Second Amendment rights of the citizens of Pendleton County, Kentucky. And furthermore, that the Pendleton County Fiscal Court hereby declares its intent to oppose any infringement on the right of law-abiding citizens to keep and bear arms. We, the people of Pendleton County, Kentucky, through this resolution, hereby declare our rights, our freedom, and our liberty as guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States of America, adopted on this third day of January 2020.
That's the resolution that is put forth. It's wishes of the court and whether.
Judge, being that the information I've received in the last probably 48 hours, I feel that we probably need to move strongly ahead with this due to those underlying circumstances and due to the outcry of the public that their wishes be granted. So I'll make a motion to that effect.
Second. A motion and a second. I'm going to call for a roll call vote on this, and if you have any comments toward your if you're giving toward your vote, we can give those in. And start out with Mr. Will.
All the feedback I received has been 100% support of the Second Amendment. But I did have some folks that suggested the proposed resolution was not needed, that it will not have an impact, and that our Second Amendment rights are already protected by the U.S. Constitution. So, for both of those people, allow me to explain. It's really simple for me. I feel the purpose of this resolution is to send a clear message to all Kentucky legislators that the people of Pendleton County, and it appears most of the state agrees with us, are strongly opposed to any legislation that violates our Second Amendment rights. I thank each of you who come out tonight and those who also communicated with us the last couple of weeks that weren't able to make it. Your support for the resolution has been overwhelming. I vote yes.
I'm going to follow up on what Alan was saying. Since this started about 6 weeks ago, I probably had 500-ish people reach out to me. It's been pretty amazing. I've advocated for the resolution from the beginning. thank everyone for their support. Thank you guys for coming out. My vote is yes.
The court and the community already know where I stand on this issue. My vote is yes.
I feel that we need to stand behind the Second Amendment. I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. I think that we need, as a community, to move forward and be united as one, as we take these issues on, not only this issue, but some of the underlying key issues that we have throughout the county and the problems that we have. The stronger we stay together, the more united we are, and the more we'll get done in that behalf. My vote is yes.
In my statements, in my opening remarks, as I said in that, I feel that this is a very important issue, and that we make this stand together and united, and show that our legislators, when they go into session, we do not want them messing with our Second Amendment rights, period.
Hell yeah.
And hopefully, and don't let it die here, you guys, because it's gonna be up to you all to make those calls also. Call your representatives, call your senators, make them know your wishes. We're a group of 5 people here. We represent Pendleton County. We got the resolution, but your voices are numerous. So your all's voice will speak more than what this does. I'm telling you. So I'll leave you with that, but I do want to introduce, we was able to have our representative Mark Hart with us here tonight. He's sitting over on the side. Just wanted to let you all know this is the person that's represented, and I'm going to let him speak on his behalf.
Thank you, Judge. I want to commend our fiscal court for taking a stand on the Second Amendment. A lot of you probably seen my press release several weeks ago in the newspaper, know that I'm supporting this effort throughout the state with all my effort. But the judge is absolutely right. Your all's individual voices will go a long way in Frankfort. I know next week they've got some rallies planned to show the support for this in Frankfort. I would encourage anybody that's not working or has the opportunity to come on down to Frankfort and hear what some of the people have to say. In Frankfort, you'll probably hear some of the opposition. And although it's a very, 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 very minute portion of our Commonwealth, there is opposition to this. But I think what the courts, not only this court, but the courts across the state, you know, as a legislator, we get emails and comments about issues all the time. But when we get, in this case, I think the last total I got was between 65 and 73 counties that already have either passed this or have this on their agenda to pass the 1st of January. And the number's probably going to grow. But when I'm sitting at my desk and I receive that many resolutions all supporting the same issue, it means a whole lot. But I want to reassure everybody, the bills that have been filed, and I spoke to House leadership yesterday, just to kind of reassure myself. We've had 4 bills filed in the House of Representatives for some type of various gun control measure, and there's been 1 red flag law filed in the Senate. And I've been assured that these bills won't even be granted a hearing. And just to kind of reassure you, some of the bills that were filed this time have been filed in previous sessions and never been granted a hearing. So even though this is a Democratic push right now in Frankfort to try to get some of this stuff out there, this isn't a bipartisan. This is a bipartisan approach because I have Democratic colleagues that are supporting this effort too. Representative Dean Schmore from Eastern Kentucky is one of them that just had a big press conference about this in his area. There's both Democratic and Republican support for this. This is going to, what they've done and what the other counties have done is going to go a long way. But to reassure you, we are going to stand firm and do everything we can to protect your all Second Amendment rights and make sure that no gun control laws are passed in the state of Kentucky.
If anyone wants to make a comment or anything, we'll be welcome to it. Or, you know, you've seen the vote, it's 100%. This is what we want. That's what you all want. And we're going to be sending these, copy of these to the Representative Hart's office and to Senator Schroeder's office so that they have it on their desk. I appreciate everybody's time coming out here tonight. It is really good to see this many people come out in support of this. And with that, I mean, I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting, and
Before I make a motion, anybody want to say something?
I just like to say thank you to everyone. Like I'm good on it. I appreciate it. I don't want somebody here to come tell me exactly what I want to have.
Absolutely. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to say something. If you look around here, everybody here is kind of like what the young people are calling okay boomers, okay? But I don't see any young people here. And I know that the push is coming through because the teachers were in support of this new governor. So my question is when are we going to address the Common Core math? When are we going to address the gender issues? When are we going to address the education? Because if we don't put the education out here, don't matter what we do today. Next generation is going to take it away. And that's your great-grandchildren, your great-great-grandchildren. So when are we going to have an educational sanctuary? To get away from this federal hoopla of California, New York. I mean, come on. This is the education. They don't even understand the Constitution. How many legislations are there? How many forms of government do we have? I mean, I was Mr. Hart. We did the Boy Scouts. We can't do that now. We got girls in there, which is okay, I guess. I don't know. Personally, I disagree. But I mean, this issue is more vast reaching than just us here right here in the courtroom. So that would be my next question. I mean, yeah, 2A, militia, hey, sign me up. What about my grandkids? Why can't we do an educational sanctuary?
that's a good question. I don't know how to answer it. I really don't. But, you know, I guess our first step would be that gentleman right over there, but, you know, we can go on that and see where it's going for that there.
He doesn't want to hear me. We got a good rapport.
So, yeah.
We got too much history in PC, right?
We've had several conversations, but I will say to the crowd, he brings up a very, I'll stand, I'm sorry. He brings up a very good point. And although you don't hear it in the news media because it's not really news grabbing, but sitting on the education committee, Common Core and some of these things are being discussed. And we are trying to move forward with some things to make sure that our Constitution and certain things are taught in school. But like with anything in government, it's a process, and sometimes the process seems like it takes forever. But just to kind of address what he asked, there are discussions going on weekly in our education about the Common Core and how to make sure that our kids are getting a grounded education in the history of this country and what our government really is.
There's a gentleman back, Mike. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got a few questions. One of them is I'm a gun owner, but I don't like the idea of a nut having a gun. There's got to be a way that everybody in here can be a gun owner that doesn't have those things in their head. There's got to be a way to stop that. I don't want to infringe on someone's legal right, but I don't want my grandchildren. At the same time, I believe that everybody, I picked up a gun when I was 10 years old, taught how to use it, taught never pointed at somebody. That's what's going on, and no one's taught those things, as we're talking about education. Gun education is a big thing. We're losing grip on that younger age to teach respect instead of murder. That's my concern. I don't want to lose the Second Amendment, but I don't want to kill my grandkids.
Exactly, and I think that's the concern through the whole nation.
Well, when we say
Now to better address that and
when we say the red flag law, what is that red flag? Is that? I mean, I don't understand why we're concerned about keeping a nut from it.
And those are the other concerns that's been brought up, also, and I don't want to pass the buck here, but Representative Mark, I mean, he has more history on the laws and on the red flag laws,
One of the, for the ones of y'all that don't know what a red flag law is, a red flag law, it's just it's a law that would, it's kind of like a preemptive action to where if you know of a family member or a friend that is of unstable mental health or is in a position where you think they're going to be a deadly threat to somebody, and you can go report that to your local law enforcement and then through the courts. And I'm not an attorney, so I can't explain exactly how to go through the courts, but at some point the judge would intervene and they can order the law enforcement to go and confiscate that gentleman's weapons. And the whole hope of the red flag law is to put it out there to where people have got an avenue to maybe take guns out of somebody that might use them to hurt somebody else that's not stable. The problem with the red flag laws, and this is what is at the core of the debate, is, and we've got legal experts on both sides of the aisle, one saying one thing, one saying the other. And until this ultimately gets brought up in the U.S. Supreme Court, we'll never have a definitive answer. But the argument is it violates a person's due process, which is protected by the U.S. Constitution as well. And what I mean by that is that person doesn't have the right to defend himself in front of that judge when the judge would make that decision for the law enforcement to come confiscate his guns. And so that's at the core of the argument that's being debated. But if you I'm trying to read up on it because this is going to be something that we have to talk about at the beginning of the session. And there's also been some issues where it could possibly violate not only the U.S. Constitution, but possibly violate some parts of the state constitution. And sir, I'm not an attorney, so I'm not going to try to tell you what them areas are. But what I just told you is what is at the core of the debate. Somebody had a question back here.
Yeah, gentleman right here.
Mark, what is the state looking into as far as, the rule is if you got a concealed weapons case, you can buy a gun at any time. I know a lady that between 8 o'clock in the morning and 12 o'clock that afternoon, she went out, bought a gun and killed herself, okay, because she had it concealed. There's other circumstances that go behind that,
I'll be honest with you, the state, as a legislative body, we weren't looking at any gun control laws this session until the gentlemen that filed the various bills that were mentioned earlier were filed. They were pre-filed right before the deadline, which was, I think, December the 13th. And so now it's become an issue. Our new governor, Governor Beshear, he's come out and supported red flag laws, and he campaigned on some gun control issues. And that's where a lot of the ideas got out to the public. But as a legislative body, until my fellow Democrats in the House filed legislation, there was no talk of any gun control legislation.
There's nothing, I'm not disagreeing with the red flag because that could be used so bad. But there's also things out there that can be done for those people that's done it for these mass shootings, got out, bought the gun, and got it right away, and then got it. And that's the thing you're looking at. If most of these people around us, don't have a gun, I got the gun, okay? I don't want to get wrong. But we're talking about, protect everything in different ways. And that's what we look at instead of trying to take the guns away from everyday people.
And I don't disagree with you, and I think because of what's happened or transpired over the last several weeks, this will be a topic of discussion where some of these things might be brought out. But just until these bills were filed, we had our caucus retreat at the beginning of December to talk about upcoming legislations. There wasn't one gun bill talked about. So they hadn't really been talked about until these gentlemen filed.
So I don't have a question, I have I guess an answer of some sort. You probably don't know me, but my father was Joe West, so I've been doing the ATF for more than 30 years now. You asked about mentally unstable people. There's a question on the form that says, have you ever been adjudicated mentally defective by a court of law? One, you have to be mentally defective and adjudicated by a court of law. So there already is a way to keep crazy from getting guns. And then on the red flag laws, you have to worry about, with red flag laws, you brought up CCDW and also CCDW instructor. CCDW has that exact same question once a year, every year. So if she had a CCDW and had mental issues that was not reported to the federal government, which most aren't, and which is why the crazies get the guns, because nobody reports these things to the federal government. There already is a background check in place. It's not being used.
In other words, it needs to be tracked. They're tracked, they're reported. Yes, sir.
I got one thing to say. everybody talks about resident, you know, I mean, getting the proper forms and the background checks. One of the things that I've looked into is about getting a suppressor for my rifle. But in order to get a suppressor, I have to get a background check done through the ATF. And even though that I have to do that, okay, legally I have to do that, but I don't have to. Because there's ways around it. On eBay, on Amazon, that you can build your own and you can do it illegally. And it's fine as long as you don't get caught. So the question is, you know, the thing about it is guns don't kill people, people kill people. You know, and not to get biblical or nothing, but Samson slew 1,000 with the jawbone of a donkey. So it's not about the gun, and it's about who's doing it. And they can use whatever they want to kill somebody. But there's ways around everything, and the same ways with the suppressor. I mean, you can pass all you want, and you can do all the background checks you want, and you can say what you want. But there's ways around it all. And if some dumb hillbilly like myself can make something at the house, you can take a lathe and a welder and make a gun if you need to. And that's, you know, that's all I got. I mean, the law-abiding citizens are not the ones you got to worry about. The criminals are doing stuff illegal. They're going to do it whether you like it or not.
Any other comments, questions?
Most of y'all don't know me. I'm really good. Been gone for a little while. Marine Corps for 10 years. I come back home. This is one of the first things I run into when we get back here. I was a combat marksmanship instructor in the Marine Corps, small arms weapons instructor. I've been around this a lot. So, even on the crazy side too. You kind of got to be crazy to sign a contract. So we do that. We do it. We make it legal. So, one of the biggest things that I see, and I rarely see, I know some people here doing some good stuff with guns, putting it on the internet. Awesome. It's my generation. I like it. But each one, everybody in this room and back there, you are all, your home, your garage, your vehicle, if it's on your possession, that is the sanctuary itself. You don't need a piece of paper from them, even though you agree with me, I appreciate it. But you don't need a piece of paper, you don't even need the Constitution to tell you it's yours. The Constitution is just telling other people how you feel. With that in mind, when you come in here to fight against this red flag laws or support your Second Amendment, you need to be doing that everywhere, not just to drive here, to come down here and listen to what other people say or just be a number. You need to be doing that when you're in your home. So there are crazies out there. There are criminals. Most of us like having easy access to a weapon in case certain things happen. But the rest of them need to be locked up. You need to keep your home a Second Amendment sanctuary. So if you do have people around you that potentially have mental health issues or kind of live in a bad neighborhood or something like that, you need to take those things into account. By not doing so, when somebody, I have a really good friend of mine, I left my purse in my car, went into Dollar General, it got broken into, purse, everything got stolen. Not that she was wrong, it also wasn't right. So she was not treating herself like a Second Amendment sanctuary. She wasn't keeping that tool. There's criminals everywhere, and you got to keep that in mind. Sorry, it's hard to. This comes last second. I just got a message from somebody that said this is going on, so I rushed down here, didn't really prepare. But with like he was saying about the mental health issues and stuff like that, if somebody's going to do something crazy, it doesn't take a weapon. It's going to take any tool they want to do something crazy. The weapon, typically, or the firearm is typically the weapon of choice. So if it's up to each and every one of you to keep that weapon away from them if you know something's going on, but you don't always know. There's a bunch of good points here. I might have to come back to it, so I can't remember too well. But that's the biggest thing I want to share is keep yourself. No one's going to take it away from you. I don't care what type of paperwork you put in place, whatever. You can't keep them out of, sorry, sir, but you can't keep them out of criminals' hands. sheriff in here, anybody? You can't stop it. You can't, sir, you can't stop it. So me being who I am, if I was doing something wrong, do you think you could stop me? Being the background that I come from? I'm sorry, if I had bad intentions, you couldn't. So.
Well, I'm good, you came with good intentions.
I do, but you can't stop it. They can't stop you. Treat yourself like it's treat your own home like it's a Second Amendment sanctuary, and live by that, and there ain't nobody gonna take it away.
Good to have you here, and have you back to the county.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I got something to say.
Yep.
Technically, I was not from this country. I immigrated here because my parents were French. They were subdued in the Second World War by the Nazis. People are not being taught history.
That's right.
They forget that the Nazis, okay, started little bit at a time to erode the freedom of their people. And once they became in power, all hell broke loose. And a lot of Americans died to save my country. That's why I came here. Because this is the greatest country there is. Only the people fight for their freedom. There's a few people that, yes, there is problem in this world, but people forget one thing in this world, and he's up there.
That's right.
All problems will be solved. And everybody, one of here, citizens, would stand together. Because there was a lot of Kentuckians that died in the first Revolutionary War. There's a lot of French that came here and fought for the Americans. And that's why America went back to France and kicked the shit out of the Nazis. I like this country, and I want to stand for it. And I got a lot of friends that know me. So, I hope the United States wakes up and does not let their freedom go away, because tyranny is easy to be taken a little bit at a time, starting with our school.
That's right.
We have teachers that actually are socialists.
That's right.
I came here because my parents got part of the socialist and the communist government of France. So I'm sorry if you do not like my speech of really the way I feel. But if we are going that way, then you can kiss your ass goodbye.
That's right.
Because the Chinese will be here before you know it.
Thank you for being here. You take a look around here. We've been made a stand.
Yeah,
We're making a stand right here in the county. And I think this has happened in three counties throughout the Commonwealth. And I think it's going to send a strong message.
I want to bring up something some of y'all might not even know, that your 18-year-olds now can open carry in the state of Kentucky. They didn't have to go through the CCW classes to learn how to shoot and know the laws. And I feel like that there should be a factor there for them to have a class to know how to properly handle weapons before they're allowed to even carry them. And I even called the Kentucky State Police down in Williamstown, and they said yes, that they had the right to open carry in the state of Kentucky at 18 years old.
And it could be something that Mark Hart brings up on the state level, something about, I guess, honest, in my book, that would be the same for your driver's license, whatever. I mean, you gotta go through a little bit of education to get it. We're required to drive a car, so I don't see any issue with that post. But some of these children, believe it or not, guys, who won't protest, they pay me by teach.
I know you can't purchase one till you're 21.
Right? Yes,
But you can serve in the military at 18.
Right.
And then you have to ask yourself also the question is, what class do you take? CCDW class is easy, many people have taken it. What if they made it really, really hard? What if they made it so only 10% of people passed it? Who makes the laws that you say are good? Who defines what pass and fail is? So be careful to test that you guys vote for, because that test could just as easily be passing.
because we're open. Exactly right.
But do you think anybody should No. Right. You can pass it just like one gentleman said. You can pass any law you want. You can ask the district attorney, you can put a restraining order, a piece of paper, don't stop it up. You know, that's the biggest thing.
Okay, any other comments, questions?
I have one question, Mark. Not sure exactly how the government actually works in the administrative side. However, a lot of the education that the people who are making the laws are coming from are given facts and given other aspects of data. Knowing that, I've heard before, and again, I can't tell the difference between fake news and real news, but you know, they don't incorporate into the facts of suicide by gun. They just say it's a gun violence. What's the capability of Kentucky coming up and, sorry Sheriff, but adding more blocks? Because I know as a manager, all I got to do is go PDF form, put a block and say, hey, death by suicide. Whether or not they've had training. So do we get educational and more secure data? Because if the data is showing against us, maybe we need to look at our position. But the problem that I find is a lot of people on the liberal side are fighting the higher education stuff, and then we are going at it with, you know, less data because there's not data. I mean, heck, we can't even say, are you a U.S. citizen? I mean, to me, that's mind-blowing. But I mean, what can we do, or is there anything going, or how can we project, you know, to where we get the data to where we can give a good argument of defense against or with?
I'm not real sure how to give you a definitive answer because one of the problems with the data is a lot of times, a lot of your data is federal, it's federal. And let me take this opportunity, Billy Matthews is U.S. Senator Rand Paul's field representative for this area. He's had more dealings with this because it is more of a federal issue. I'm going to let him kind of answer
That is, I have not had more dealings with that, but I've not had that specific question. But I do know when it comes to guns, a lot of this is federal stuff. It's mandated to the states. And it's just like transportation or everything else. If the federal government says you have to do it, you don't do it, they just keep your money. That's how they mandate states to do certain things. The state does it with county, so it's just the way it goes. You know, I'm not exactly sure how you can add boxes or remove boxes from the checklist for gun control, but I will say this about Senator Paul, is that not just the Second Amendment, but all of the amendments, the entire Constitution, if you want to know where Rand Paul is going to be, he'll say, what does the Constitution say? That's where I am. So that's all I've got.
And to clarify a little bit more, they've looked at, some of our committees have looked at how to get better data on this, and most of your crime or your crime databases are through your federal government, and so a lot of it is what you can do based on what their regulations and standards are for that database that they've created that they share with the states. So a lot of the information that comes into our law enforcement comes through national database systems, and I don't know how to answer your question because I'm not for sure which agency actually sets up the software and creates the databases. But I do know that the FBI, the ATF, the Secret Service, all your federal law enforcement agencies share that with the Kentucky State Police. The Kentucky State Police disseminates it down to our local law enforcement. But to try to maybe address exactly what you're saying, I'm not real sure what can be done on the state level, but I would be more than willing to talk to you one-on-one, and we can maybe push it up through Senator Paul's office and our Congressman Thomas Massey's office. I'd be more than happy to help you do that.
I got a question. Money that Mr. Matthews referred to mandated, keep us in compliance as far as the law is concerned. Who allots that money to our government, or our state, our county? And what effect, if it be the governor, does he have on that money?
Are you meaning like the federal dollars?
Well, does the governor control money for our infrastructure here in the county? I mean, who controls, can he hold money from us by us?
The governor, all the money that's spent by the executive branch is allocated to the state budget that the General Assembly passes. Most of the stuff will be passed in as a line item budget to like the transportation department or child social services. I do know there are some funds, like the discretionary road fund, that the governor had. It's a pot of money that the governor can assign to local governments for specific road projects. And Governor, our former governor, Governor Bevins, his process was that is he had all the counties when they had projects they needed funding for. There was an application process. The judge and the court would put in what they would want, and then his people that work in the transportation department would look at it, and they would determine through. They had like they had like a checklist. If you met certain checks or whatever, you could get certain funding for certain things, and they would go through. And their attempt was to try to disperse the money as evenly across the counties as possible. But it's called discretionary road money because the governor has the determination on how that money is dealt out. So we've got a new governor. I'm not sure what his process is going to be, but there are some dollars that the governor has say on.
Mark, the question was, by passing this resolution, if we're going to be negative, that was the question, okay? We're going to be, can there be a negative effect?
There could be a negative effect on anything we do in this county. Yes, I'm not going to lie to you. There could be a negative effect because we have a governor that passed or that campaigned on gun control. And you all just passed a resolution that is against his stance on that. But there could also be a negative effect for this county because if you look at the voting records from the last election, Governor Beshear lost this county. So there could be a negative effect because the majority of this county voted for his opposition. There could be a negative effect. I mean, it's discretionary because he has a say on that. But
you just got to project it not to.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. And that's where myself and Senator Schroeder come in. When they apply for something then we will meet with the appropriate people in the governor's office and with the governor sometimes. And that's our job, is to try to convince him that you're all deserving of the money. We've done pretty good up to date, but it's a new governor, new era. I can't give you any guarantees, but we'll be in the trenches fighting for you guys.
This is a process, once the new governor's elected. I started serving underneath the former here, and when Bevan took office, it was a change. I mean, all new people went in. I mean, new relationships had to be built. It takes time to get all that done. I think it took close to 6 months before I could get anybody in the transportation department to even know what we were talking about. So I look for this year. Hopefully, it's going to be as bad, but that's what we work for, is trying to get those extra funds that helps us do certain projects or different road improvements throughout the county. So, but I think assisted with us on that a few times themselves. So.
And kind of put y'all, that my statement, although it's true and I stand by it, it does sound kind of negative, like we might not have a shot. We've got a big shot because right now you have a Republican-controlled legislature. And we passed the budget. And the money has to be put in the budget for him to be able to spend it. So when the negotiations start between the legislature and the governor over his proposed budget at the end of the month, then that's when this stuff's going to come up. So there's going to be some give and take, and there'll be some assurances from him to us that our Republican counties are going to be able to get some stuff. And so it's not as doom and gloom as I might have made it sound, but it's discretionary because the governor has the final say on that once when it passes the budget.
Let's just take more than we give. Be clear though, that's not total budget, that's discretionary.
No, yeah, he's absolutely right. It's not total budget, that's discretionary budget. And anything that we put in there as a line item, he has the power to veto a line item and take it out of the budget altogether. But he does not have the power to change it. He only has the power over the discretionary.
We have 5 votes that says yes. At this point, do we move on to send it?
Yeah, I'll be delivering this first thing.
We had no opposed yet in this room? Nobody's willing?
Everybody raise your hand if you're in favor of this resolution. Okay, call for Katie, everybody raise your hand. Any opposed? Well, let's see, you got it. Good. If there's no other further things, I appreciate your time coming, spending with us. I appreciate Mark representing Mark.